Good afternoon and welcome. I'll call the meeting of the Agricultural Advisory Committee to order, and thank you for your attendance. Before I get into the agenda here, I'd like to introduce our new Director of Public Works, Matt Tracy, and he's sitting beside our former Director of Public Works, who is now our CAO. So Anyway, just so you know, if some of you don't recognize who that is, that's Matt, our new Public Works Director. He's been here for a number of years. He just kind of changed positions, I guess. Anyway, thanks and welcome, Matt. Okay, without further ado, do we have any disclosures of pecuniary interest as a general nature thereof regarding anything on the agendas? Seeing none. I would ask for the approval of the agenda, and I would also ask that maybe you consider a couple of additions. Of course, you're going to have the presentation by Mr. Angelo on the drainage policy, and our Director of Planning, Brian Jardine, is going to give, and I don't think his name was on here, a presentation of the development charges on agricultural buildings that we asked for at the last meeting, so he'll have a report on that. And I'm also going to ask Rhonda Bateman, CAO of Lower Trent Conservation, to address, I think, Mrs. Grill's concerns with some of the weeds or flowers or whatever along the green belt, and also she's going to give us a verbal update on the future amalgamation of the conservation authorities. So I know it's still up in the air. As a board member there, we get fed what we know, but and I know our staff out there still don't know a lot of answers to things, but she can maybe give you a general view. So if you could consider those additions, I'd appreciate it when I ask for the approval of the agenda. So anyway, that's where it is. Councillor McHugh, I have a seconder. Brian Cruz. Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried, thank you. I'll ask for the approval of the minutes of the September 16th, 2025 Agriculture Advisory Committee. Mayor Harrison, Mr. Close, any questions or errors or omissions rather than those minutes? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried, thank you. We have no public meetings, public input. Doesn't seem to be a big crowd, so we'll dispense with that. And presentations, none, and delegations. Okay, we'll get right into the staff report, and we'll have the verbal update, I guess, from the planning department, and then Brian, if you wish to speak to that, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you to the committee. Just wanted to speak briefly, just give you a verbal update on the issue that came up at the last committee meeting, and that was in relation to the payment of development charges for agriculture-related buildings. That was presented on the floor. I think it was Member Cruz that raised the topic. And also put us in touch with membership from the OFA, OFA's office. This is an issue that is part of a review of all municipal bylaws that impact agricultural uses, that OFA is looking very closely in promoting the issue of exemption of development charges for agricultural buildings across the province. Since that time, I think it's fair to say that the topic of development charges has become kind of a hot topic in the news, not just in the municipal world, but you see it across all various media outlets, and it's becoming a very strong conversation in terms of the impact of development charges across all forms of development. There have also been a number of even more regular or more recent updates to the legislation by the province, even since the last time that we met, certain exemptions and certain changes of the rules in terms of deferral of payments as well. So long story short, lots of things happening in the world of development charges, so much so that our finance department is actually working on a much larger report to bring to council, directly to council, early in the new year, around January or February. And within that report, they will be reviewing and looking at a number of things. Some of the top issues that they're going to be looking at will be the potential for exemptions or reductions for certain forms of industrial related buildings, more accessory or storage building type situation. Also the agricultural buildings driven by the update from this committee. And I would stress when we're talking about the agricultural building exemption, it would be for non-residential buildings. It would not include the residential home on the property, but all other agricultural buildings. So they'll be looking at that. Plus, as I mentioned, certain other deferrals and exemptions that have been mandated by the province that we have to update our bylaw. So with that, I think what I did was I left with the chair potential wording for a motion further to discussion of this committee. Certainly, if it was within this committee's desire to recommend forward to council that council do promote exemption of agricultural buildings from development charges, there is a motion there, and then that would be taken on to council when the Finance Department report is presented to council. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brian. And I'll read the draft motion that Brian presented here, and it reads that the Agricultural Advisory Committee recommends that council exempt agricultural-related buildings, non-residential, from applicable development charges and amend bylaw number 24-130, development charges bylaw accordingly. And I leave it to your consideration and direction. Councillor McHugh moves that we adopt that. Councillor or Mr. Cruz, Brian Cruz. Any questions or comments before I call the vote?
Yeah, I'd like to make a comment there. There's what I'm reading is that you're saying the farm buildings or the farm in general does not use municipal infrastructure. That's the way I'm reading this, and that's why you're asking for this exemption. And I don't understand how you can say that farmers, farm equipment and so on do not use municipal infrastructure. That's where I'm coming from.
Brian, do you want to comment on that? Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, no, the Mayor raises the critical point, right? And that's, whether or not a building, I guess the most obvious issue is whether or not a building is connected to municipal water and sewer, and obviously most agricultural buildings would not be in that situation. But beyond that, I think the point that the Mayor's making is that agricultural uses in general are using other forms of municipal infrastructure, predominantly roads, bridges, etc. And so that's really the question for council, and that would be the case for any exemption from development charge. As I say, there's a parallel conversation happening right now around accessory and storage buildings in agricultural uses, in industrial uses. But ultimately, all development will inevitably use municipal infrastructure to some degree. But when it comes to agriculture and industrial, the question is, A, the value of the building, the development charge in relation to the overall value of the building. Those buildings are of lesser value because they're not residential, and they're generally storage buildings for the most part. But really that's the question for council is whether or not they exempt them and therefore promote that type of use, whether it's industrial, encourage industrial use, encourage agricultural use through the reduction of fees. So what the Mayor's tapped into is definitely the question that council will have to consider. Definitely when we looked at agricultural buildings, I took a scan over last year's permits. We had 7 permits for agricultural buildings, so a relatively low number of permits. Obviously the buildings are quite large. The current fee in the bylaw is $59 per square metre, so it does add up. 1,000 square metre building would be $59,000 development charge, so that is quite significant, but it's there's a lesser number of those types of developments happening on an annual basis. So, but that would be the question the council have to answer. Do they want to promote and encourage that type of development through an exemption in the development charge?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, that's exactly what my concern is. How do we defend this from a councillor's point of view? And we know that, sorry about that. Thought I'd shut it off, but I guess I didn't. Anyways, that's what I'm trying to figure out is how do we defend that based on that?
And it may be a consideration that could be brought up. There's no doubt about it. Mr. Cruz.
I believe there's a list of approved assets or functions that the development charges under the Act are allowed to fund. And they're things like police and libraries, and generally associated with more people. So the concept is the more people that the development brings to the municipality, therefore the development charge should be levied to pay for the services that those people require. So I think the defense is quite simply that list that, and I can't recall the entire list, but generally that list would involve more people coming to the municipality. So the development charges needs to pay for the services that those people require. Generally, a farm building does not bring more people to the municipality. So I think that's probably the answer that we're looking for is the development charges are related to the number of people, extra people that come to the municipality, and generally speaking, farm buildings don't bring more people to the municipality.
Okay. Any other questions or concerns regarding this proposed amendment, or motion, I should say? Like I said, what we do here has to go to council. I'm sure it'll be debated there. And the mayor makes a good point. I guess there's always another way to look at it and what have you. And I think Mr. Cruz is right. Certainly it, usually if it houses anything, it's four-legged animals or whatever, or there's storage buildings or whatever. So it has to be looked at in a broad sense. And I'm sure Brian, the finance department, will look at it in a more defined way, I would presume. And when they maybe bring something forward eventually, what would you say, would it be in the next few months before, was there anything we'd have to include in the budgeting or that kind of thing, do you think? As far as building changes that I would say in your budgets that it might affect that, or?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No impact on budget as such. I think that when the more fulsome report, because the other rationale of doing everything together, obviously, is to ensure that council get the entire picture of what a combination of exemptions could look like if they go with an industrial exemption, agricultural exemption, some of these other ones on residential that keep changing. As I say, the legislation is literally changing. I think we got a change through just last week on deferral dates. So it's constantly in motion right now, and I think council would want to see all of those exemption requests or ideas at the one time. And I think that what the final report that would come forward would also take a look at some of the previous permit history and make some calculations as to what the potential development charge would be. So, for instance, if we look at the 2025 agricultural permits issued, what would the development charge have been had we been charging development charges for those types of buildings? So I think that will all be contained within the future report.
Okay. And then we probably might have something by our March meeting. Usually it's in that neighborhood. I would presume maybe by then they will have come to some conclusion, I guess. And these minutes will go to council, I presume, in the January meeting, and then the finance department may have something by the time the March meeting rolls around, I would presume.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, when I last spoke to finance staff, they were hoping to get this back in front of council late January, early February. As I say, lots of other changes over and above what we're discussing today, so they're very keen to make sure the bylaw is up to date and running properly.
Okay, Councillor Card.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I think that the motion raises a good question. I think I'm going to support it today in the interest of getting a fulsome staff report from finance, but not to say necessarily the final product before council, but I think that this is certainly an important discussion point. And I am curious to dig in on the finances. That $59 per square meter, you know, what does finance think that I have no idea how these figures are calculated in terms of that development charge. Is that supposed to represent, for that subtype of development, these agriculture buildings, as Brian noted, not bringing in a lot of population? You know, is that a representation of the cost on hard infrastructure? Slightly increased, hard infrastructure usage. I have no insights on that, so I am very interested in the staff report to get a better picture.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any other questions or comments? All right, you've heard the draft motion, and it's been regularly moved and seconded. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. All right, now move to item B. Chris Angelo, CAO Chief Administrative Officer on the Agricultural Drainage Policy. Chris, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Staff, as many committee members may recall, staff for the last several months have been working on a comprehensive agricultural drainage encroachment on municipal property policy that really recognizes the importance of drainage from agricultural property and working cooperatively with the community to facilitate drainage. Over the last century or two, numerous factors have changed in regards to crop types, yields, and farming practices that have resulted in increased agricultural tile drainage. As a result, the city has been receiving more and more requests annually for outlets to roadside ditches and for crossings crossing our municipal roadways. And we really haven't had a mechanism in the past to track all of these as well as to approve them formally for persons asking or requesting those tile drainage outlets. So this policy, in cooperation with the OFA, was developed to give us a tracking mechanism for approving new requests for tile drainage out and across municipal property, as well as recognizing and grandfathering in all of the existing tile drainages that are outletting into municipal drainage ditches and across municipal right-of-ways. Numerous times throughout a year when city staff are reconstructing roadways, we come across outlets into the city ditch or tile drainage across the municipal right-of-way. And this policy recognizes and approves those and grandfathers those existing ones so that we're maintaining them going forward. So well beyond my time frame here in the city, it's really recognizing all of those as well as tracking any of the new applications that are coming in. One of the things that we as staff want to do is support the agriculture community, and the roadside ditches were designed and improved over time to accommodate drainage, whether it be surface runoff, or tile drainage directly into the drainage system, and we want to continue doing that cooperatively with the agricultural community. I've worked with Mr. Cruz over the last several months to develop this policy going forward, and I'd be happy to entertain any questions that committee may have.
Okay, thank you very much, Chris. Any questions or comments? There was a fairly extensive report. I know some of you didn't receive it until later today, and maybe you could have looked at it electronically. But anyway, I would entertain any questions or comments before. And there is a recommendation here, and I can read it. You can be considering it, that the committee recommend to council that the agricultural tile drainage encroachment on municipal property policy be approved. So I'll leave that out there for your discretion also. So Brian, do you have any questions? Brian Cruz? Or comments, I should say?
Yeah, I just want to thank Mr. Angelo and the committee for their attention to this matter. It really is important to the agricultural community that we work cooperatively with the municipality and continue to outlet these tile drainage outlet into the roadside ditches. A practice, as Mr. Angelo has mentioned, has gone on for many, many years with very little consequence, as I understand, towards the municipality. I should mention that many parts of the province do have an extensive municipal drainage system. That does not exist in most of the 4 counties. Maybe I'll phrase that a little differently. The 4 counties that I represent have very little municipal drainage infrastructure. So it really leaves us no alternative other than natural water courses or municipal roadside ditches to outlet water into. So it's very important that we get this done, and it works cooperatively for both sides, and it allows the municipality to identify existing outlets and going forward to identify new installations, and it's just a good policy for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Keating?
I'm just concerned with a couple places with cost. 5-3-6, Maintenance of private drain is responsibility of the landowner, and maintenance of the road ditch, which will be responsibility of the city. But then you go down to 5.39, is any work required by the city to adjust the right-of-way will be completed at the applicant's cost. Example, lowering the city ditch to accommodate an outlet. It kind of contradicts itself there. I just.
Wish to comment on that, Chris?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, and Mr. Keating. Really what 5.3.9 is referring to is if a piece of property is looking to install new drainage tile in their field, and they're looking at an outlet that's below the bottom of the existing ditch, our past practice has been that farmer would be responsible for lowering or responsible for the cost of lowering the city ditch. We don't want to be incurred as taxpayers accommodating and providing for that additional cost. We maintain the city's drainage system within the roadside, but any lowering of the ditch to accommodate tile drainage will be at the homeowner's expense. And what the previous paragraph refers to is that anything on private property is maintained by the private property owner. Anything within the right-of-way is maintained at the municipal cost.
Yeah. Okay, maybe, that's the way I understand it, but then just, if in that ditch is already there, I know what you're saying, but that drainage is gotta, like, it's pretty hard for an individual, like, for that cost, it's hard to know what it's gonna cost. How does, like the mayor said a little while ago, how do you identify what cost goes where, like type of thing, if that makes sense? But my concern is, down the road, that ditch should have been already done, like type of thing. So shouldn't the municipality take a little responsibility for the taxes that's coming off of this property as well, like type of thing? So shouldn't the municipality accept the responsibility of a ditch? Like, I mean, that's very little to be, but a ditch is a ditch, and if it's on municipal property, to help, if that water's got to be drained off, well, if it's got to go down another foot, it's got to go down another foot. But I can't, the cost isn't negotiable. Like, so if the city says, well, okay, it's going to cost $10,000, holy old nuts, you can't, you gotta be you can't get no different, like a construction guy could come in and do it for half the price maybe, or something like this. Does that tile drainage farmer have the option to get a private contractor to do that, to lower that ditch? And I don't see that happening, so.
Mr. Angel?
Through Mr. Chairman, that's always a possibility. We've allowed other contractors to do work on municipal property as long as they have proper insurance and liability waivers and stuff for the municipality. So that is always an option. And our drainage superintendent, which is currently Mr. Turner, works with a private property landowner to, if there's existing drainage that needs to be rectified within the drainage system, we'll do that at our cost, and the proportionate cost to the landowner for lowering the ditch, if that's the case, needed to accommodate a tile drain. So what this policy really does is just recognizes our past practice over the last 30, 40 years.
Yeah.
And recognizes that tile drainage is important to both the municipality and the agriculture community, and we want to continue doing that going forward.
I appreciate your answer, but then number 9.1, this policy shall review by the Director of Public Works and Environmental Services every 5 years with consultation with the local agricultural community. Then number 2 says, this policy shall be amended at any time at the direction of council. Again, how does the council decides they're going to do something and yet there's no consultation, and it outdoes number 1?
Through Mr. Chairman, it's always a prerogative of council to have complete control over any policies that the city has. I would suggest to you that councils for the last century, and I believe councils going forward, will always want to have consultation with our electorate before any decisions are made. And it's just incumbent upon us as staff that we review our policies every so many years as things change and evolve. We're not suggesting major amendments may be needed, but again, we can't predict what the future may have. But consultation is extremely important to what our council does now and will continue going forward.
You done, Mr. Keating? Are you finished?
I,
Okay, Mr. Cruz?
I guess I would just mention that I welcome the opportunity to review this in 5 years in case we don't have it just right now. I would hate to think we don't have it right, but there's always that possibility. And if we can look at it in 5 years and make it better, I would welcome that opportunity.
Okay, Mayor, Mrs. Grills and Mayor Harrison.
Okay, go ahead.
What happens when the water, the ditches there's not sufficient ditches along the sides of the road to hold all the water that's coming off the fields, and then it just floods the road? What happens then? Because as you all know, I live on one of those roads that is flooded because there's not enough ditches
Okay.
to take the water.
Mr. Angel?
Through Mr. Chairman, and thank you for the question, Mr. Grill. It's something that we are always a challenge for us. No matter where we go in our municipality, there's always ditches that can be approved. And we do that annually through our operation and capital budgets. As we're reconstructing roadways, we're improving drainage systems. Part of this policy requires the drainage superintendent, which is Mr. Turner right now, to meet with the farmer that's looking for a new outlet to the city drainage system and make an assessment whether the existing system is capable of handling the water or not. Regardless of whether it's in a tile or coming across the land into the roadside ditch, that water is being accommodated at some point in time, unless it's being directly to a water course. So it's up to us to monitor that and maintain the drainage systems, and if we need improvements, then we'll have to do improvements. But that's part of our function in operating a municipal road system.
Well, you sure are going to have fun on my road then. And the other thing is, the reason is because the landowner, or we have a new landowner, and he went along and filled in every ditch on his property to make sure that the water all backed up the opposite way. What do we do then? He thinks
Through Mr.
you're
Chairman,
all stupid, I'll tell you that now, that's what he told me.
if there's a specific instance that we can certainly talk offline that I can have our drainage superintendent take a look at, we can certainly do that, so.
Okay, because he didn't have very nice words for you guys.
Mayor Harrison?
Yeah, thank you very much. This is not a simple issue to deal with. This becomes very complicated. And just as you were mentioning, a ditch on one side of the road and a ditch on the other side. And so we take the water to the lowest point, and that water then may, as you indicated, drain onto the farmer's field that had nothing to do with the drainage system to start with. And it's I guess the municipal ditch is considered to be an approved outlet. And that's part of your problem. You're supposed to, when you tile, take it to an approved outlet, not just dump it on the neighbor. And that's what happens in many situations where people put in tile and just let the tile dump onto the neighbor, and then the neighbor's got to deal with it. And that's when this whole thing becomes a very complicated process. Anyways, yeah, let's hope what we're doing works. At least water's got to move. Water's got to move, it always will move, and we have to do the best we can to make it move appropriately. Thank you.
I guess the big thing is, Mr. Mayor, this spring we had too much water at times, and we could have had it spread over the summer and used it in a little more diligent manner, I guess, but Mother Nature has the final say.
Yeah, even though we did have rain, a lot of rain in the spring, the wheat crop was fantastic.
Yeah. Mr. Angel, you had another comment?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think it's important to note that this is no change to what we're currently doing, or no change to what we've been doing for the last 20 to 30 years. It really just puts pen to paper on a policy that we're asking council to approve, or this committee, and then council to approve our existing sort of patterns of way we do business in the city. And I think it's important as, you know, especially for staff, we know there's always staff turnover, but having a definitive policy that recognizes and grandfathers existing outlets and existing crossings across the roadway, as well as having a process for tracking any new applications, so that approval that is, when it's given, it goes with that property forever and ever. So I think it's important to recognize all that. I've seen policies across Ontario that are a lot more stringent, a lot more taxing, and a lot more cost recovery on the agricultural community. And that's not something we're willing to do, or I'm not willing to entertain that. This is about a balance and a cooperative effort between us and the agricultural community in Quinte West.
And in that same vein, I know, Mr. Cruz, you brought it before about what Coburg, I believe, and Western Northumberland were going to tax, I guess, runoff from various properties, and I know we don't want to get in that situation, but I don't know where that is at now. Are they still dealing with that up in that area? I haven't read too much about it just of late, but.
Well, that is a little different situation. That's a fee charged to a landowner to dispose of stormwater. It's interesting you bring that up right now, because the government is taking submissions on what that provincial policy should look like, what the provincial regulations should look like. OFA has taken the position that a municipality should not charge a stormwater fee for water running off of agricultural land that does not enter a municipal drain. And the regulations that the government has proposed is very similar to that. It makes it a little more complicated because it uses words like pipe and conduit and direct connection. So then all those terms need definitions. They can't make it just really simple like our first policy. They have to add some things in there that make it a little more complicated. There's still some question as to whether rural properties would be captured in that policy, or just agricultural land. But that's, the consultation is open right now, actually.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other comments or questions? Okay, well, I'll read the recommendation again, and then I don't think we got a mover and a seconder for it, but the committee recommend to council that the agricultural tile drainage encroachment on municipal property policy be approved. And a mover and a seconder, Councillor Card and Councillor McHugh. Any further questions or comments? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. And I see Matt down there taking notes, and maybe Mrs. Grills, he'll take it under advisement and have a look at your situation there, along with Mr. Turner. Okay. Is there any other concerns regarding the drainage policy or anything before we leave that? Okay. I now ask Ron Bateman, if you would mind, maybe just go to the podium so everybody can hear you, and maybe you can give us some information and maybe answer Mrs. Grill's concerns of the last meeting with the, I guess, the green belt and the weed situation there.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you to Mrs. Grills and the rest of the committee. Thank you again for having me here. Sorry, can't hear me? I do better without the microphone. So as far as and I'm going to do it in quotes, the weeds on the green belt, what we had prior to what we have now, and this was, we called it the Greenbelt Project, the Trenton Greenbelt Project, we had grass. There was no biodiversity whatsoever. It was hard packed soil with a minimal amount of grass. To enhance the area and naturalize it, we decided to do a project to increase the biodiversity in the area. And so it was replanted with all native species, some that could, I guess, be considered weeds. I think you're probably thinking of the goldenrod. No? Oh, okay. And we also put in paths, accessible paths, and new benches that were donated by some of the charitable organizations in the area. And we refurbished a picnic shelter and 2 picnic tables there. We increased biodiversity and we have signage on the site promoting everything that we've done. We had a lot of funding from the provincial government for under certain, I can't remember the names of the programs, they change every year, but we did get some funding from the province, and we got funding through a lot of local businesses at either donating materials or providing materials at lower cost, and some actual heavy lifting done, and the city of Quinte West helped us out on quite a few occasions. And so that's the basis of the change, and we have increased biodiversity, and people are actually using the site, and we're really pleased with that. So which species were you concerned with?
There's all kinds of fleabane growing there, which is not native to this country.
Okay.
And as a matter of fact, they had a weed inspector into one of the municipalities that I have land in. And a person had to completely have someone come in and work that down, burn it off and everything else because it's so aggressive. It's
Okay.
fleabane and it is growing there.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
So we now have a new ecologist, a technician, and they're going to be visiting and attending that site this summer. So we'll deal with that. Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
I guess the next topic, Rhonda, if you so please. I know it's a thing in motion and
Yes.
still a lot of cloud and unanswered questions, but I'll leave it to your discretion and entertain any questions maybe after.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I will stay emotionless on this, even as difficult as that is. So, the province passed Bill 68 a little while ago, which introduced the idea and will subsequently be creating the Ontario Provincial Conservation Agency. It's an agency of government that will oversee conservation authorities. Their role will be modernization and streamlining, setting standards and key performance indicators for CAs and policies. And they will have a board of directors anywhere from 5 to 12 people. And that's one half of what's going on with the province. Right now, there is an environmental registry posting for the consolidation of conservation authorities. So that would be 36 conservation authorities going down to 7 regional conservation authorities. So locally, the proposal includes ourselves, Quinte Conservation, Crow Valley, Otonabee, Kawartha, Ganaraska, and Central Lake Ontario to be the Eastern Lake Ontario Regional Conservation Authority. So the posting is open until the 22nd, and we as a CA are always happy to improve. Let's just say that. And we have been challenged over and over by the government to do things differently, change our methods to meet targets, and we have all gotten there. We've done everything that they've asked, and as a result, some of the exercises that we were requested to do actually improved a lot of the things. Our knowledge base, let's say that. We had to do an extensive inventory of all our lands, and which is, I mean, we should have that anyway. And there was a whole bunch of other activities we had to do, including a watershed management plan. And it was great, all good. We were really pleased to get all that work done. But now, so the agency will exist because the legislation passed, but the consolidation is still out for comment until December 22nd. And we're pleased to say if they want to modernize our systems and have e-permitting which most of us can't afford, and have standards for administrative systems, like payroll and any finance and that sort of thing. We welcome that, and we would do that in a heartbeat. But we don't feel that we need to be consolidated to do that. So that's one of the opinions that the board will be putting forward in the comment section and have through a resolution passed at our board meeting last week. So that's where we stand. Under the ERO posting, it states that the board itself will no longer be overseeing the Conservation Authority as of the date of the next election in October. And the Conservation Authorities Act will be reopened this spring. Well, probably right now, but it will come to the legislature in the spring to allow the consolidation to happen, because currently the Conservation Authorities Act, it outlines how do you establish a conservation authority, how do you dissolve a conservation authority, and all that detail is pages and pages long. So they'll have to change that to allow for the consolidation. And what we've been told thus far is the consolidation will start in January of 2027. We don't know how, we don't have a framework, we don't have timelines other than those two I've given you. That's all we know at this point.
The other thing, Rhonda, you mentioned that they are proposing a board, but it won't be in the same manner as the boards that are in place now, because when this is all in place, there'll be 47 municipalities under that banner. And I think our board and myself, we're losing local input and content, and how we're going to be represented, I think, is something that councils and what have you who foot the bill for the operation, which is more than what the province is putting in, and that's been lacking in a lot of years, but we won't go in that direction. We'll see if they change their mind, but I know in our mind, that's one of the things we're concerned with, both the present board that's there and also I know some of my colleagues that are regular council members that are representing the council. So I don't think they've even told you how that so-called new board is even going to be selected, or is just going to be appointed by at the minister's whim in a sense, or how that's going to come about. But
yes, they haven't indicated that at all. They're asking us through the ERO posting, asking the public how these boards should function and how they should be appointed. And so it has come ideas about regional representation. So in our area, there's several counties that are involved, from Hastings to Peterborough to Northumberland and Durham region, that would have to be represented. So if they're talking about regional representation, if it's Hastings, for example, then Hastings County may get a representative to represent umpteen municipalities. And under that logic, we would have to have Belleville and Quinte West as individuals, because you're not part of the county per se. And if you look at how everything's done now is by population, if we look at that, then if we're picking up Central Lake Ontario, that includes Durham region with Ajax and Pickering and Oshawa. Are they going to have the heaviest say? Are they going to pay the most? We don't know. They're talking about keeping the funding model the same or similar, and I don't know how you can do that when it depends on how they allocate the funding. Is it going to be by population? Is it going to be by region? We have no idea.
And the last comment I'll make before I ask the members here for questions or comments. The other thing that kind of concerns me is certainly they're going to get rid of a whole bunch of CAOs, unfortunately, but they keep saying, do you have a position? And I don't know whether you get downgraded or what, or whether they're going to build one big administrative office someplace, wherever that X is drawn, to try and be accommodating to everybody. We're not sure. And how many regional, like our own LTC office, we've got two in this city. We're lucky we have LTC, and then also Quinte is just down the road. Whether they'll keep both of them open for close public access if people want to go out, landowners or whatever, for permits or to ask questions what's going on or what I can do to my property. I think those are some of the question marks that are out there too. What the business structure, I'll put it that way, even if they are going to absorb all of the employees, where they're going to put them, or will they have little, I guess, keep some of the offices open as little side offices for people to get better access to instead of one big central one someplace. But I think that has to be solved too, doesn't it?
Yeah, so at the engagement session they had in Vaughan a week and a half ago, they did indicate that they were going to keep the offices, the current offices open, which is ideal. They shouldn't get rid of them because of exactly public access, but political access too. So you guys are footing the bill, you need access to us. Unfortunately, you'll be footing the bill for the region. There's no talk about where a regional office would be, or who's going to work there. The minister said in a YouTube video that the CAOs can be redeployed to the front lines, which will be interesting if we so desire to do that. And if there's only 7, and there's 7 regions being proposed, so that's a lot of senior staff that will be going, potentially.
Thank you. Councillor McHugh, and then Councillor Card, and then any other.
Thank you, Chair. I think Ron answered my question. The question I was going to put forward is, we need a physical presence here, a building, an outlet of some kind, because if I have a question, I don't have to travel to Bowmanville to do it, or to Port Hope, or Kingston, or someplace else. That's the biggest concern. And I wouldn't be concerned them saying we're going to keep them all open. That sounds like a pacifier for today, but when they get looking for ways of cost cutting a year or two later down the road, the easiest thing would be to unload some of these buildings, put cash back in their pocket, and again, then inconvenience the taxpayer. That was my only concern. But for the present, I guess they say they're going to keep them open. I guess for the present time, that question is answered.
Through you, Mr. Chair, that is the present statement. You're right. And when they're looking at it, as far as I can tell, like a corporation. So if we consolidate, the region would take on all of our assets and our liabilities. So all the land that we own that has been either donated or financed, and the maintenance is financed through the municipalities. If there right now they said it's safe, but we don't know what the future holds for that either. And we have agreements with all of our municipalities, which will be renegotiated for the MOUs that we have in 2027, I believe. All of that has to be taken into account too, because we all have municipal MOUs to deal with. So.
Okay, Councillor Card, and then Mayor Harrison.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And, you know, I think my thinking on some of these things has evolved a little bit, coming from small business into government this term. The more concentrated an administration or a bureaucracy, the less overhead and cost, theoretically, right? That's the theory of the case. But also less oversight, input, transparency, less responsive to the members. And, you know, if this is anything like the experience that we've had with the amalgamation of public health, is what my mind goes to immediately, and the promises that were made in the lead up, and the quotes from senior leadership, and just kind of how that's shaken out. And just for the public members or anyone who happens to be watching this later, the promises were cost-cutting efficiencies, synergies, operational leverage, and what we've got is projections of ever-increasing costs and cut services with the Trenton location on the chopping block, the only Quinte West location in Trenton, despite pretty good attendance and usage in the community, I would say. So Yeah, this is sad to hear because I think that smaller, more rural communities like ours inevitably lose. The power will just concentrate in the funding centers, which will be Durham, Peel, or wherever the western boundary is for that. And that is really sad for our community because it inevitably will be less transparent, less responsive, less oversight, and we'll have less input as maybe a fractional member. Maybe we rotate and once every term we get to sit in the Hastings County seat. It's very unfortunate. I'm sorry to hear.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Harrison?
Yeah, there's a lot of things here that, you're coming down to. The property. Yeah, who owns the property? You own part of it, we own part of it.
No, Lower Trent owns, we have property that in past times that our municipalities may have assisted in purchasing, for sure. But anything that's in our name, we have 7 conservation areas and 10 natural habitat areas as well, not to mention our office and our shop and.
Well, I'm thinking of the Sand Dome, and I'm thinking of the garage that's there.
You own that.
That's right.
Yeah,
And
we just
then
own the building out
We share
front.
the responsibility of the garage.
Yes.
That's part of ours. So, the province can't just step in and take it. There's no way they can, because we're not going to, number one is, we're not going to sit back and say, take all the spaces that we need. No, we're not going to do that. So that, I think, will help in survival. I don't know how long. I think the other point is they haven't made anything clear as to what your responsibility is, or what you're going to do, or how it's going to happen. And right now, you're issuing building permits. That's your responsibility, correct? How are we going to take that all? Is that all going to come back to us? And in what form, if it does? We can't, as a city, sit back and say, no, we're not issuing building permits, because that's a great deal of our revenue. And we have to do that, and we've got to stick in, we've got to step up and make sure our hand is in this. There's just no other way that I see. I think and this has happened to us before. This isn't the first time.
No.
So.
If I might, they have said that operations are to continue as normal, which is.
Yeah, what they
for
consider
now.
to be normal and what you and I consider to be normal are
Yeah.
not the same.
Exactly.
And that's what I'm reading anyways. And there are many places that are very upset about this whole process. And no consultation, no effort to make sure that we've been involved from the ground up, and we should be, because that's where we get criticized here. Anything we do, and we don't involve the public from the start, we're nailed to the cross, and it isn't pleasant.
Yeah,
pleasant
you're
thing.
exactly right. There's been no public consultation. The ERO is out for posting, but the engagement sessions they're having, they've limited the number of people from each CA attending to 2. And then they invited municipalities right in the middle of budget time. So most of our municipal representatives from our own board couldn't go. We had 2, one from Brighton and one from Crammy, because they could get there. But that's it from Lower Trent.
Yeah.
And we had all of our group, and so the 7 of us in this consolidation. And then they matched us with the Western Lake Ontario group, which is the Niagara, Halton, Hamilton group. So we were all in one meeting, which was really odd because we're all rural and they're all, urban with a little bit of rural.
Urban, yeah.
So, but our feelings were pretty much across the board the same on.
And I don't doubt they're the same, but the feeling isn't the same. That's what I'm saying. And when you're all throwing in sort of like the bull pit, and I got to somehow erect myself to be justified in what I say, and I don't think that's fair at all. That's taking the blood out of the system and the purposes, obviously. But we've got, as a municipality and as a, a council, we've got to assert ourselves to make sure that we can keep doing business and keep functioning in a way that's acceptable as well as efficient. And then, and then you got Conservation Ontario, you're not even, anyways, it's just, it gets very frustrating. And listen, I can tell you, my son is not a lover of the Conservation Authority, and I'm not, the sins of the father are not the sins of the son, or the sins of the son, but, so all this has got to be worked out in a way that everybody comes out of here feeling that they can continue to function and work together. That's the issue that I see is desperate. Thank you.
I agree.
Okay, Brian Cruz, please.
I'm pleased to hear you talk about the minister not closing any local offices. That I hadn't heard that, but that's a good thing. And I had speculated that that would be the case. They've promised no layoffs and staff numbers to stay the same. So it makes sense that they would keep the local offices open because those people need a place to go. So I'm pleased to hear that the ministry has said that. The ministry is promising to streamline and gain efficiencies and with the goal of improving turnaround time, improving the time it takes to issue a permit. And I hear all the time about the length of time it does take to get a permit from the Conservation Authority. So if this is working in the direction to speed that up, then I would have to speak in favor of that. I've heard several times around this table about cost and budgets and that sort of that kind of talk. And I do note that your budget this year was 9.5% increase, and last year was 13.5% increase, and the year before was 18% increase. So yes, you're trending in the right direction, but perhaps some efficiency gains, as you spoke of, the digitalization, that sort of thing, would help get down to a more reasonable, the municipal budget came in at 4.99. So getting down in that direction with these efficiency gains, I can't speak against that.
Okay, Councilor Clare.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I agree with everything that Public Member Cruz just said, and my thinking was very similar to that. Having gone through the public health experience, though, and seeing on the other end of it, and that isn't to say that it won't work in the case of the Conservation Authority, but we were sold a very similar operational leverage, efficiencies, productivity gains, similar, running, 3-4 times the inflation rate, budget increases over the last term, and, promise to keep frontline staff, promise to retain and strengthen core services. That was a few months before they closed our local location, announced that. So I don't know how these things will play out, but certainly if this does facilitate some, e-permitting and some delivery of services, higher level delivery of services, speedier timelines, I think that is positive. But I am I'm skeptical just from previous experience that this will turn out better for local residents, but I'm hoping it will.
Mr. Chair, if I could respond
Sure.
to Mr. Cruz's comment about delivery times. We meet the provincial standard 99% of the time, and we report back to the province on those results. So the timelines were set, and we do meet them. As we like to say in the East here, we're not the problem that they're seeing in west of here, let's say the GTA area, where things take longer and are more expensive. We're proud of our we've reached between, I think the lowest we ever hit was 96%, 96, 98, or 99% for the past 4 years. So we're pleased. And if e-permitting speeds that up, we're all for it. But the consolidation, we're not.
And I think the buzzword they've used is cutting red tape, and I don't know how they mean whether to, how, I would hope it wouldn't be a slowing of things with this consolidation. They could, as Mr. Cruz says, keep the process going. That's what concerns me. If they start closing the local offices and they put them all in one big center, it's not going to be the same.
There won't be the same knowledge base. There
Yeah.
won't be the same staff, being able to know without even getting in a car what the situation is. My staff are very familiar with the entire watershed, and they know what they're looking at before they even
You'd
get
have to
out.
re-educate a whole new crew, I guess, into what's going on. Not that you don't get
Yeah.
new staff that has to be brought up to
Oh, we
speed,
always,
but,
we always
yeah.
do that, but we get them out in the field right away, so they know what they're looking at and they get to know the people. And the cutting red tape is kind of ironic when the agency is another layer of bureaucracy that we're going to have to deal with, so.
Another question, Brian?
Yeah, I guess I just want to repeat that at this time, at least, there's no talk of closing regional or local offices, and I will note that the Ministry of Environment operates with 5 regions across the province. I'm just making that note.
That's true.
Any other questions or comments? I'm sure as this evolves over this next year, Rhonda will be here at our meetings, and I thank her for coming today. I didn't mean to throw this at her unbeknownst, but I know we've been talking about it at the board meetings, and you're sending emails and stuff through to the board members and everything, but it's still a play-in process, I guess you'd say, with a lot of unanswered questions. Brian, and Matt even, after next.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. Yeah, thank you. Just one point, just listening to the conversation, one point I want to make from the perspective of municipality, and particularly outside of the greater envelope of work that the conservation authorities do. Just looking at the permitting process and the approvals process. I will go right out there and I'll say this: I will be very sceptical of any speeding up of anything. I think to Ms. Bateman's point, another level of legislational group will not speed things up. I think one thing, if I can funnel it down and look at what leads to good, quick decisions, it's local knowledge base and autonomy to make a decision. I cannot see any situation where this change will apply any of those things or improve any of those things. I foresee significant changes. I think, from the perspective of, and I'm speaking very much as a staff person now, the level of problem solving that happens between our staff and Conservation Authority staff on every single file would probably surprise most people, including the applicants. And that happens on a daily basis, a weekly basis, meetings, knowledge of how to work with individuals. And yes, local offices may stay open for a point, but my point is, if local people do not have the same level of autonomy to make those decisions, or at least have management close at hand to assist in making those decisions, and have to go to a higher regional office, that will not speed anything up. And I think only, and I'm sure there'll be a process for this, if you only look at the issues that go before the board, right? That will take significant work to ensure, if you've got, 47 municipalities now funneling into one regional office, that's going to be a lot of board hearings. They take time, even at the local level, and so I think my call to all of us watching over this, yes, local offices may be kept open in the meantime. I personally don't believe that will be a long-term goal here, but in the meantime, I would be watching for what level of autonomy these offices have at the local level in order to make the decisions that we need them to make, because their timelines are attached to our timelines. If they don't meet their timelines, we don't meet our timelines. And again, we seem to be in this chase for cutting red tape. We seem to actually be making things harder province-wide and extending timelines and creating more confusion. So I think those are the things to watch out for: autonomy to make decisions at the local level. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brian. Do you have any comments, Matt? No? Okay. Any other questions or comments? Douglas Cruz?
Many of you don't know my history, so I'm going to give you a little idea. way back in 65, 66, 67, I was at the University of Guelph, or what is now the University of Guelph. And Roundup had just come in. And some of the four-year students, I was in a two-year diploma course, went over to the university at Waterloo, and Seagrams had just given them money to build a new football field. And they took some Roundup and wrote OAC down the field. It was immediately obvious a week later who'd done it. And the student council had to pay to get it resodded. Now we come ahead to much more recent experience, and I'm in the Lions Club. And the Lions Club goes out of their way to help people. And one of the presidents, who was a new fellow in the area, came forward with the request to me, could I throw a few bucks into a bench? And we've got benches all over the city, and I thought, yeah, that's a good idea, and I gave him some money. He didn't say what it was for, or I'd have told him no. It turned out, as I found out later, it was for a weed garden. And that's my tax dollars. And it's not funny at all.
Right in front of the liquor store.
And keep in mind, Roundup is still available.
So you're talking the green belt that was discussed earlier, Mr. Cruz?
The green belt,
Yeah,
the weed garden,
okay.
that's my tax dollars. And I think that's about the dumbest thing I ever heard of the Conservation Authority doing. Have I made my point?
Yes, sir.
It could easily be rectified. I just think that that's silly. If the Conservation Authority wanted to help the city, they could put little docks out all the way up the side of the river so people from out of town could come in and fish, and it wouldn't cost them anything. And they'd be removable in the wintertime and back out in the spring. A real good asset for the city.
Well, we do have boat launches.
Pardon?
We have 2 boat launches that we allow people to use for free.
Yeah, it's not fishing. And we've just had a fishing derby that's been canceled because they haven't got enough help. And like, that's, as far as I'm concerned, just craziness. And I must have missed that meeting, that it was approved by this committee. This is just absolute.
What do you mean, the green belt we approved? No, it was property that's owned by the Lower Trent, and we do have sections along there. We have a trail along there in certain areas,
I
but,
mean the weed garden.
well, that's
That's our property.
That's
yeah.
their property, and their decision through the board had made that decision to establish that.
Could I speak to this for a
Yes.
minute?
Anyway, now you got the picture, and I'm not happy.
Well, it's an opinion anyway. We will take it under advisement. Okay, Brian Cruz, please.
Mr. Cruz, Doug, you must appreciate that the value of the weed garden with respect to the pollinating and the birds and the bugs and all the types of things that would live in that area versus the hard-packed grass that used to be there. So I think the intention is, and it's a federal government initiative to develop these places where this biodiversity can happen. We do have the issue that Ms. Grills brought up regarding the flea bane, and it should not be there. But I think some of the other weeds do promote some of the biodiversity, and some people think that's a good thing. Without getting into an argument with you, we can do that after the meeting.
Well,
But I think
I
we
just,
both had, we've both spoken our piece on this, and I think we should probably move on this
The
one.
one
You and
ti-
I can talk about it after.
okay. The one time that
Nope, we're not gonna go there.
I approached the Conservation Authority was to get, at the end of my driveway, there's a little, it used to be a little stream. And stuff hanging down from it. Come down and just cut the brush out so we can see and not get killed when we drive out the driveway. Nope, we don't do that. Okay. The next thing that happened, I got talking to, or the mayor did, I don't know which, can't remember, it was a while ago. Chris Angelo was told about it, and the next day there was a crew out there and cut the brush. Then I have a driveway, and I spent a lot of money building that driveway. Oh, somebody else can come in anytime they want. And that's the Conservation Authority speaking, because
Well-
they could go in above the stream and come across the stream, put a culvert in, and it wouldn't affect the stream one little bit. Now, the good part is, they made me allow the fellow to come in on my driveway and then go into the woods, into his property. And whatever he did, it dried up the stream. So we don't have a stream there anymore. That's a good thing. The water's going in the ground. I just don't understand that kind of thinking. And the guy that was president of the Lions Club got my money to build a weed garden.
No, you just put the benches there. The Conservation Authority done the plantings.
What a bunch of nonsense. I wouldn't
Okay.
have given 10 cents to do that. In fact, I'd have gone down and stopped it.
Anyway, thank you for your comments. and,
Anyway, enough of that.
Any other comments? If not, we'll carry on with the rest of the agenda. Rhonda, thank you for your presentation, and we look forward to your participation in the future and your attendance and keeping us informed. Anyway, we're now into correspondence for committee decision. I don't see anything listed. And we're down to supplementary agenda items, none noted unless we're going into notice of motion and new business. So do we have any new business around the table? Mrs. Grills?
Just one question. Did we ever get the brush and that cut over on the corner of your road?
Less than 10 days after the last meeting.
I noticed it wasn't
Took
in
3
the,
years to get it, but 10 days later, it was all done.
okay. And the other thing is that brusher came up and did the Oak Hills and everything else, but it never crossed over Rosebush Road to come up in the 72 of us that live up in that little section up in there. Never come up there. So the brush is still out along my road.
Matt's taking some notes there, I'm quite sure.
And, well, I'm concerned because there's one tree that's close to the road, and as most of you know, I'm close to the next municipality, and some of you may know, Fred may know, where somebody hit a tree that was too close to the road. It was within a foot of the road. And they got $3 million out of that municipality.
Where's this tree on your road again? Get up there.
Well,
It's in
no,
Sterling Rod now.
no, it's not.
No?
That's his pocket change from girls.
But I'm just saying, as they go down the road with the wagons and that, they're hitting the brush all the time because it's hanging right out on the road. I wish they'd bring that.
Okay.
You just have to come up Rosebush
Mr.
Road,
Tracy's taking notes there. I'm quite sure he'll take it under advisement.
Rosebush Road, and Anderson Island Road, and Carmel Road. Fairgrounds Road, I guess you better do it too.
Mr. Close, do you have anything, concerns or questions? Mayor Harrison?
No, I just want to tell Doug Sally could solve all his problems.
Yeah, okay.
I just like to take this opportunity, I'm gonna see most of the staff again later this week and next week, but I'd like to extend season's greetings, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year to our 5 public members here. It's been a pleasure sitting with you, and I look forward to seeing you again next year, and I hope you do have a great, wonderful holiday season.
Okay. Councillor Card?
Nothing to add.
Thanks a lot, Mr.
We'll go around the circle here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm done.
Okay.
No, I just want to say thanks for the Christmas greeting, and I have no more comments.
Anything else, Doug?
No, thank you.
Brian?
My sake.
No, I'm good, thank you.
Okay. Well, on that note, before I ask for adjournment, I also was going to express my congratulations for a good Christmas and a happy and healthy New Year to everyone. And hopefully next year will always be better than the year we just had. But stay tuned as usual. There's always changes in the works. So anyway, thank you all for your attendance. And I have entertain a motion to adjourn.
One quick thing.
Okay, one thing. Okay.
I wish to everybody here, the exception of staff, but Rhonda, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year to you too, dear, from all of us here. And I'd move for adjournment.
Move for adjournment. Mr. Close, seconds. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Thank you for your attendance. Meeting adjourned.